I just picked up the Hercules 20 volt cordless brushless angle grinder, and over the next couple weeks I'm going to be running it and seeing what I think about it. I didn't need this, but I was really curious. I'm kind of switching over to the Hercules stuff. I've got a bit of DeWalt stuff around. I'm not particularly brand loyal, except it obviously makes sense to stick to one brand and one battery, so you don't have multiple chargers and all kinds of different stuff going on. So that's kind of why I'm starting to get a lot of Hercules stuff around here, and I've been really happy with it. And the price is right on these things. So yeah, I scooped this thing up. So basically, you buy the bare tool. It comes with a grinding disc, the tool for tightening and loosening the disc that holds the wheel on, and it does not come with a battery. So I've thrown a 5 amp hour battery on this thing. This is the paddle style. They actually had on display the one with the switch up here, and the paddle seems much better. So I went with the paddle one. And there you can see my 5 amp hour battery on it. So yeah, so we're going to be running it, and I'm not just going to be running it on its own to see what I think. I'm going to be running it side to side with my DeWalt, which also has a 5 amp hour battery on it. Also has the paddle. The one thing I can already tell you is that I like the paddle on the Hercules one better. You can see this one is about halfway down, and this one is much more up on the front. So naturally, you just pull that little lock out of its lock position when you go to pull the trigger on that one. And this one is a little bit more awkward. I've thrown 2 new cutting discs on these. They're the better cutting discs from Menards right here. So I'm going to be running the same cutting disc on both of them. And I'm just going to fool around with them over the next couple weeks and see how they go. So I will shoot a couple more videos as I'm in action, and then I'll post something up, and I'm not going to have any, numbers on anything. I don't have any fancy test equipment, not going to be doing anything like that. Just like real world, what do I think of it compared to the DeWalt? And the DeWalt, I should mention, I believe I paid about $170 for the bare tool. And I just picked up the Hercules with a 15% off coupon. With tax, I paid $91 for it. So the DeWalt is almost double the price. And this is the Flex one, so you can put the 60 volt battery on it. But we're going to run apples to apples here, 20 volt, 5 amp hour batteries, and see how it works. Now I know that looking at these two, I know that on the DeWalt it runs at 9,000 RPMs and Hercules runs at 8,500. This was a little bit of the same fastener, but on this side I actually got it to stop, but you can see I took a much bigger slice out of it and got into the flange itself. The feel of them was very similar. Smoothness was very similar. I would say they probably, it's a little bit arbitrary here, but it seemed like they did about the same job on both of these similar bolts here. So I would not grab one over the other if I had them both sitting there and wanted the best one. So I've been running these grinders, honestly, mostly the Hercules, for a couple months now, and I wanted to wrap up my video and give you some thoughts. So I've hardly touched my DeWalt, and it's not because it doesn't work great. It does. I've got zero complaints about it. It's just that it's expensive, and the Hercules is substantially cheaper, and pricing changes. I'm not even going to comment on pricing. You got to look it up and see where stuff's currently at. But at any rate, it's substantially cheaper, and I've got zero complaints, and I am happy to grab the Hercules. Sometimes when you're using a less expensive tool, it feels crappy, it vibrates, it doesn't work the way you'd expect it to, and none of that's the case. This thing works good. I've been using it on different projects. I've run through several cutting discs, and these are pretty good quality cutting discs, so I'm doing some work. I just narrowed a 3,500 pound trailer axle yesterday with it, and I don't grab a corded one. I don't even grab the DeWalt, although the DeWalt obviously would work fine. So yeah, it is a legit, in my opinion, a legit replacement for a more expensive tool like the DeWalt. Now, two things to mention here. Number one, this is the Flex Volt DeWalt, so you could put a 60 volt battery on it, and I don't have one, and I don't know how it works. And so there is a chance that if you put the 60 volt battery on that thing, it makes it a whole nother animal, and in which case I might pick it over the Hercules every time. But currently, with a 5 amp and a 5 amp hour batteries on both of these tools, I can't really tell a difference between them in power or anything like that. Second thing I want to mention is that when you're doing a bigger project, these things do burn through batteries, both the DeWalt and the Hercules. And that 5 amp hour that seems like a decent sized battery doesn't seem so big anymore when you're starting to cut through larger tubing or, whatever, just larger projects in general. And so what I was doing was throwing this 8 amp hour battery on, which is bigger, not massively bigger, but bigger nonetheless. And that thing really gives you some good runtime. It's, I was running it enough that I literally tapped out the 8 amp hour battery. So I've been putting this thing to the test, and you probably want to couple an 8 amp hour battery with it if you're really going to be doing stuff with it. If you just got really minor projects, 5 amp hours probably fine, but I do think the 8 amp hour battery is a really good match for it. So there again, I don't have apples to apples. I haven't put an 8 on the DeWalt or anything like that, but I know as far as the tool operation goes, I would say they're pretty neck and neck. And as far as the batteries go, they're also neck and neck. And so if you put a 60 volt on this one, it would give it an advantage over the 5 amp hour 20 volt. And if you put the 8 amp hour 20 volt battery on this tool, it also gives it a runtime advantage. So wrapping it up, I think this was a great decision, and I would highly recommend it. There's a couple different options. This one has the paddle trigger on it, just like the DeWalt, and some of the other ones have a switch on the top. But yeah, so very equivalent to the DeWalt. Highly recommend it. 5-year warranty on all their brushless tools, so I think it'd be pretty tough to go wrong with it.